Hello everybody, this is the American Exemptionalist. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're a first-time viewer, welcome to the channel. Now, I would like to address some things before I get into the topic of this video. I've just got a microphone, I have got my laptop back, thankfully, and I have a good streaming and recording service right now. OBS, it's free to use, and that's a lot better than the last one. I would like to massively improve my content from here on out for the rest of my career on YouTube, and I hope you guys appreciate the effort, and I do really appreciate every single one of you guys who's came back, watched my videos, and subscribed. We have saw a lot of growth, and I'm very happy and satisfied with this. So before everything gets started, if you like my content, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. It's very important. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Trump, you and your campaign is in a lot of peril, and I am going to give you a formal warning and some suggestions of how you can do it. Because, guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it right now. I'm not. We are not doing fantastic in terms of polling right now. Now, that doesn't mean we're doing disastrous. Trump maintaining a percentage of around 40%, 46, 47, that's not bad. But it could be a lot better. We have a solid base coming into this election. We can't deny that, and I'm glad we do. But Biden dropping out really caught Trump off guard, and he needs to reform his strategy if he wants to win this. And while as of now I have faith Trump will win, and I do have faith in him, I would like to send a message to Trump and everyone else and give him tips on to how he can win this election. And I created a little slideshow, a little ironic, in order to prove this. So, Trump needs to focus more on white working class voters and not on Hispanic voters. Now, I'm going to bring you to 2020 demographics. This is the 2020 election by demographics, and it is basically the same map as 2020 other than Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Now, as we can see here, Trump doesn't do fairly well with Hispanic, Black, Asian, or minority voters and voters with college degrees, but he does extremely well with non-college whites. And those people who are non-college whites are the working class voters that carried him above the line in 2016. I mean, he won the election simply because he appealed to a lot of people who felt like their voices wasn't heard and who felt like Trump would be a breath of fresh air. I mean, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and of course Michigan were all key players in Trump's 2016 victory. And that's because he focused a large portion of his rhetoric and his messaging on American nationalism and bringing back the American dream and spirit, a message to a group of people who are historically some of the poorest in this area. I mean, if Trump did improve with these people and brought back these same policies rather than just portraying same similar tax policies as Mitt Romney and John McCain, he would probably do a lot better helping him get a victory. Because if we do shift this even just a little bit to where he expands his support among non-college whites, he wins the Rust Belt, he wins Minnesota, he wins Virginia, he gets the voters out he needs to get out, and he gets the people on his side he needs to get on this side, just like he did in 2016. Now, focusing on Black and Hispanics, that's not me saying I don't think their voices should be represented in government. No, no, no. But rather, I'm telling Trump that he needs to focus on the groups that benefit him and get him over the line. Because the only way Hispanics are going to trend to the right is if they provide successful policies that persuade them, similar to how they did in Florida. I mean, if we look at Florida, it's almost a safe Republican state now. Places like Miami-Dade have shifted so far to the right because of Cuban and Hispanic voters that Democrats are basically giving up. And the reason they're doing that is because DeSantis and the Republicans in the state are successful and they get their policies through. Trump needs to be successful if he wants to spin the needle, pick up a large percentage of the African American vote and a percentage of the Hispanic vote. The only way that's ever going to get done is if he can thoroughly convince these voters that, yeah, I'm successful, guys. I help them, and I'm going to help you. So Trump needs to go all in. If he could get upwards of 80%, even though there might be a turnout drop among turning non-college educated whites, that doesn't matter. Because even if we shift it incredibly poorly, where they only make up 36% of the electorate, if Trump can get his base out and get a majority, even 70%, 75% rather, even in an apocalyptic scenario, Trump still wins. Now, this brings me to my second point about that, is that Trump, if you need to appeal to people, get back on your Twitter account. Now, I think we are going to see a return, hopefully tomorrow, or rather today. I think this video is going to go up on Monday, which is when the Elon Musk interview. But you have 87.9 million followers. And yet you're not on Twitter? You're not reaching out to people? Look, I think interviewing and getting on the podcast to people like Aiden Ross and all these other people is great. You're just spreading your message. But you have such an untapped market in which millions upon millions of people, not just in the United States, but around the world, follow you, and you're just refusing to get on there? Look, I understand they banned you, and you can be petty about that if you want. But the only way you're going to win this election is if you appeal to the voters, if you get them out to vote, and you inspire them. If you get that done, then you can win. The second point is Donald Trump needs to fire Chris Lafica, or Chris Lafica. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry, guys. Now, this guy is a never-Trumper who wanted Trump to go to prison and condemned Steve Bannon horribly. But he's working in the cabinet. I mean, not the cabinet, but rather the election cabinet. That makes no sense. He's sabotaging Donald Trump's campaign. He is not doing what he needs to do. He is focusing on stupid narratives and rhetoric. Like, why would you want to portray as Kamala Harris as tough on crime? Now, look, I have deplored and condemned Harris's record of imprisoning African Americans and young men to get labor for California, and that is bad. But if you attack her solely on that, she's going to look like the better of the two if she takes it and says, yeah, I put people who did these bad things in prison. It might have gone a little overboard, but it worked. You do not want to portray Kamala Harris as the tough-on-crime candidate in this election. Another point I have is that Donald Trump needs to bring back the enthusiasm. When Donald Trump's life was almost took on July 13th, I and many other Republicans were never more energized than they were at that very moment. Donald Trump stood up in the face of a bullet. He got up and shouted, "Fight, fight, fight," raising his fist with the American flag in the background. That gave many people, myself included, goosebumps with how heroic, with how motivated, with how of a true leader would do that. But ever since the convention, if you look to the right, Trump's been looking more like this. We do not need a disenfranchised and demoral Donald Trump like many people are seeing. He needs to get out there. He needs to campaign. He needs to campaign 2 times a day across the swing states. All right. He needs to focus. He needs to focus up good. He needs to focus in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. All right. Minnesota might have been a pickup when Biden was on the ticket. Yeah. Same thing for Virginia. But you got to put that to the side. You can't campaign in New Mexico or New Jersey anymore. You got to focus on the top 5 states. Because Trump is not going to go to the White House by picking up New Jersey and losing the rest of them. He needs to pick up the White House. The way he does that is by picking up these 5 crucial swing states. And the polls are looking horrible right now. Absolutely horrible. Now, do I trust all the polls? Not necessarily. There are some problems. It would be malpractice not to address them. So I do think Harris is leading the national popular vote. I'm undecided about whether or not she actually is leading in Pennsylvania, given how most polls have him up a little bit. Same thing can be said in other states like Wisconsin. Same thing can be said in states like Georgia, North Carolina. You get what I'm trying to make. It's gotten a lot closer. And when Kamala Harris is going out there and rallying these dates, setting the venues, and getting her base out, you're just giving her an opportunity to expand the map past what she needs to do. All right? You can't let that happen. which brings me to one of my final points, is that you need to attack Harris over policy, not race or crowd size. Now, look, he did great at the African American Journalist Conference. I will admit, I thought it was a solid interview, and he purposely did well. All right, but attacking Kamala Harris on flip flopping between being black and Indian, yeah, that's not going to win the election. That is not a serious issue that's going to get voters out. All right, part of the reason why how I think Trump can win is if he gets people the Republican base to buckle down and vote for him out of fear of her policies. I mean, let's not forget she's tied to Biden. Let's not forget Tim Walz is one of the worst vice presidential candidates in American history, and I'm standing next to that, especially with his stolen valor allegations and other deplorable acts which I don't feel like needs to be mentioned on this channel. If we take a look at the current issues and current way things are forged, in my opinion, Trump has a solid pathway based on the 13 keys. While the gains were minimal, they were still made. While there was no primary contest, she isn't an incumbent seeking re-election. Jill Stein is taking a lot of Arab votes away. The economy could be a disaster before November. Kamala Harris hasn't faced any major interviews yet, and that's prolonging a potential scandal, not counting the Tim Walz stolen valor scandal. And of course, she is not that charismatic, Trump. This debate is crucial. The only way you're going to take back the lead is by getting your base out, ignoring quite a bit of these polls, and proving to the American people that you are the more competent on policy and on rhetoric and on leadership than her. That is not hard to do. You cannot let these polls and Democrats' rise enthusiasm keep you from the White House. That is the way, Donald Trump, that you win. If you can materialize the fact that this economy is not working for the American people, you lock her out of the White House. If you can successfully bring the Tim Walz scandal to light or find something else, you keep her out of the White House and you take back the House. And if you work as hard as you can, you will have a solid trifecta going into November and going into January and governing and doing everything you can to save this nation. That, Donald Trump, is the most important thing you can do. Not focusing on unkempt groups that you have not proven yourself towards. Not by keeping incompetent staffers on. Not by sitting down and not rallying and letting Kamala Harris walk all over you and not attacking her based on trivial matters. That, Donald Trump, is how we will win the White House and take back this country. At the end of the day, I will have to give Kamala Harris the slight edge in the presidential race, as I think I am officially moving a lot of these races back into the close category. With all things said and done, I do believe at this very moment Kamala Harris would win if Trump keeps this up. A narrow loss that destroys his reputation, record, and name in history. Something this country cannot afford to have. So Trump, you need to change. This is the American Exceptionalist. Out.